Sarah. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I'm excited for today's webinar. I think it's so important for this day and age, especially. So I just wanted to welcome our guests. Thank you all for watching, and let's get into it. Melissa's going to be presenting today.
Yes, this is a topic. It's actually been on my mind for a little bit. Let me share how I decided I wanted to do this, Sarah. So, every year we have to do continuing education, right?
Mhm.
Hope everybody knows that people in this space have to do continuing education every year. Part of that education, we usually have to do 3 hours of ethics. You all should be happy to know that. But then the other topics we can choose from. So I always usually do something on anti-money laundering. I do something on long-term care. And then the other ones is kind of a mixture of things. And they're always adding new content. But I had to do one recently for a specific company, and they wanted me to do it on fraud.
Mhm.
So I was so happy that I did it, not because I wasn't familiar, but there's so many new types of fraud that are out there right now. And so while I was doing it, I was actually learning more about what is new, and it really made me start thinking of a couple of things. All the topics that we use are in the financial space, and there's a lot of other scams that are not financially related, like things that people do, um, where they put stuff on your door handle and then you touch it and you pass out and they, snatch the person. Like there's all kinds of
That's scary. Yeah.
very, very scary things that people do in parking lots and stuff like that. But there's a lot of new types of fraud, and so um, I wanted to share. And it was so much that I had to do a part one and a part two. So part one is really going to be about recognizing. We don't want you to get played. We want you to recognize. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff to recognize. This is where I learned some new things. And then part two, which is going to be next month, is where we're going to talk about how to avoid them. But let me go to the next slide for me, Sarah,
Okay.
which I think is just kind of who I am. For those of you that have not attended one of our webinars that we do every month, I want you to pay close attention to the disclaimer. The information provided in this presentation is general in nature and is not intended to serve as individual advice. For guidance on your specific situation, please consult a qualified professional. And that might be me or Sarah, but so general advice. But before you go to the next slide, there's a slide that I didn't add, but I
Okay.
want to talk about why this is important. I'm going to add this in part two. There's a couple of reasons why it is so important to understand scams when you're thinking about your finances. And so I kind of I did some notes. I have like seven reasons why this is important. The first one is that fraud is a direct wealth destroyer. Direct, right? Because when scams take money, sometimes it's usually large sums of money, right?
Mhm.
Have lost their retirement. Some people have lost their homes. Sometimes their home equity has been leveraged. So, even one event can undo years of disciplined planning. So that's the first one. The second one is there's often no recovery, right? So sometimes people, unlike a market loss, if you have a market loss, there's a recovery period. The market goes down, the market goes back up. If you lose in a scam, some type of fraud, generally speaking, you might not have any way to recover. So if you're talking about if you've lost your life savings, you might not never ever get that back. And it really makes me think about Bernie Madoff for a moment.
Mhm.
Knows about Bernie Madoff, and of course, there's all kinds of movies and documentaries about that. There was some restitution, but most people that lost their life savings got little or nothing back. So now you have people that had planned for retirement that their whole retirement picture is completely different. They couldn't do the things they wanted to do. They couldn't move where they wanted to move. Some people are still working. They could not actually retire. Um, and so, very often there's no long-term recovery strategy. Um, it can disrupt your entire financial plan. Now, I am a woman of a certain age now. Um, it's probably fair to say I have more years behind me than I have in front of me. So when I think about long-term investing, I don't have 20, 30 years in front of me where I can make up a loss. You know,
Mhm.
so if I was 20, if I was 30, that would be a little bit different. But I'm not 20 or 30 now. And so if I were to experience fraud now, it would be devastating, right?
Yeah.
It would absolutely be devastating. So I'm thinking about people that are in my age group. I'm thinking about my Gen Xers, and my baby boomers. This is like even more critical for us. Um, so again, it can delay retirement. Who wants to delay retire? Nobody wants to delay retirement. In fact, most people want to retire earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Cause them to have to take increased withdrawals. Maybe they didn't lose all of their money, but they lost a substantial sum. And so, one of the things that we talk about in retirement income planning is, what is the withdrawal rate? Are you withdrawing 2% a year, 3% a year, 4% a year, 5% a year? You might have to take out more, which means your money is not going to last as long. What if you live long, right? You may have to liquidate some of your assets, maybe assets that you didn't want to liquidate. You might have to liquidate a property because you need the cash. Maybe it was a rental property. Maybe it was something you planned to leave for your children or your grandchildren, but now you have to liquidate that asset. And there also can be lots of tax consequences. So that's another one, and how it can disrupt your entire financial plan. It can impact credit and borrowing power, right?
Yeah.
So think about how identity theft damages your credit scores. And a lot of people have had to deal with that, where somebody did something, you got something on your credit report. You know how hard it is to get those things off of your credit, especially even if it's not yours, right? It's fraudulent accounts may appear on your credit report. Loans can be taken out in your name, right? It can affect your mortgage eligibility. It can affect interest rates. It can stop you from getting a job.
Yeah.
Right? It can stop you from getting a job. And then we could talk about the emotional impact that leads to poor financial decisions, right? Sometimes after someone has experienced fraud, they become overly conservative with their long-term investing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they avoid investing altogether, which is absolutely terrible. They're losing purchasing power. You and I have talked about a lot of the military people, or people that are participating in the TSP, and they want to put everything in the G fund, right?
Exactly.
The guaranteed fund, and they're not keeping pace with inflation. And then just generally losing confidence in financial decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional impact is really, really strong.
Yeah. And the stress of just having to deal with that situation.
Yes, absolutely. And then what about high income individuals or targets?
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. If you have a lot of assets, there's bigger opportunity for a scammer. If there's more activity, you have more exposure. And if there's more trust, there's easier access. And so as I think about that, I've thought about this a lot with my mom. My mom is on fixed income. She doesn't have a lot of assets. And so, on one hand, I'm not as concerned about my mother experiencing fraud, because there's really not anything to take, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we kind of mean by, if you were a high income earner, if you have a lot of assets, you're a bigger target than someone like, if you go to my mom's bank account, there's not much you can get, and anything that you could take out of there, I could replace, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. But the last one is, fraud is a planning risk. So think about this, Sarah. You and I spend a lot of time doing financial plans. We plan for market risk. We plan for longevity risk. We plan
Mm-hmm.
for inflation. How many people plan for fraud?
Not many.
Not many, if at all. In fact, it also made me start thinking about, what are some things that you and I can do when we're providing plans for clients that addresses the fraud issue, right?
Oh, yeah.
We need to add. So
That'd be great.
absolutely. Okay, next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so the truth about fraud. So some people think that, scammers will target anybody, but for the most part, they're targeting people. They don't target the uninformed.
Mm-hmm.
Informed, and you know what to look for, which is what this whole presentation is about. You're less likely to get scammed. So they target people that are uninformed, right? They target people that are busy, very busy. Some of us are so busy, we don't really have time. We're not really looking at the bank accounts and the credit cards, and there might be charges on there, and we're just paying the card off, right? Because we're paying attention. We already talked about people that are highly successful, high achieving people, high income earners, people with a lot of assets. But as you can see, fraud is now a multi-billion-dollar global industry, and it has evolved faster than most people's awareness of it. Even mine. Like I said, I was taking this a continuing education course, and I was like, oh, there's some new stuff in here that I didn't know about. So I'm going to share some of those things with you all today.
I can't believe that it's a multi-billion dollar industry. Like fraud is its own where you can go to work. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, absolutely. Some people, this is it. Sometimes I think about pretty much any major city, right? You come up to a stop sign or you're getting off the highway and you have somebody there with a cup in their hand, right?
mhm.
For some people, that's their job. They got to get out there in the street every day and they're trying to get somebody to give them enough money for a meal or to go to a shelter overnight. But this thing here, this job right here, is sometimes people don't even have to leave their home, but this is their job, is how can I scam somebody today, and how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars can I get to support my lifestyle? And this is what they do, right?
Crazy.
It is. Next slide. Okay, so the three ways that scams work. Okay, we can talk about stealing your identity. Who has not had to get a new bank card?
Yeah.
I had to get a new debit card. I know one year, I think had to get my debit card replaced about 4 times. It was
Oh wow.
right. There have been times I've traveled, and everybody's walking around with the RFD things. I carry them in my wallet. I have RFID wallets as well. I'm gonna actually pull out my card right now. This is one of them that I have. Y'all can see this signal red.
Mhm.
Thing is, then I just found out recently that sometimes these don't work forever. They have a shelf life. So,
Oh, okay.
so, I think about, I traveled once and I was in one city, and then I came home and all of a sudden there were 3 charges that were trying to pop up on my debit card, $200 a piece at Forever 21.
Hmm.
Now, I was not in New York and I don't shop at Forever 21. So let's start there. So one of the things that I have done that I do a lot, all of my credit cards are locked. Every single one of them is locked.
Mhm.
Ready to use them, I unlock it, I use it, I lock it back. And of course, you have the option to do that with your debit card as well. I don't generally do it with my debit card, but that's also not where I keep the most of my money or whatever. But that is something that people can do, and especially if you're traveling, right?
Mhm.
That's an important one. People manipulate your trust. This is one we're going to spend a lot of time on today. As you can see, you see the little heart there. You see you see the texting and things like that.
Yeah.
Talking about romance scams today.
Mhm.
And lastly, redirecting your money, right? And one that's not really on here but I think it's something that's very prevalent. At one time, I was board chair for an organization. Oh my gosh, I'm having a little mental block right now. Um, House Proud. I was board chair of House Proud of Greater Atlanta, which was one of the things that we did is we provided home repairs for disabled persons, veterans, and seniors.
Mhm.
Did a lot of advocacy, and one of the things that happens with a lot of seniors is people get these. They can actually pull the house from under the senior, right? From maybe the house is paid off. Um,
Mhm.
they get they transfer the title, right? And so a lot of
Okay.
times you need to have some type of title insurance or whatever, but people would get their titles transferred and they're in the house and they don't even know what's going on, right? So that's another way of redirecting your money, right? That maybe you don't think about it. And if you've worked long and hard and you've paid your house off, the last thing you want to happen is in your golden years, someone will take your house from up underneath you.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Very, very bad. Okay, next slide. Okay. Now, for some reason, my transitions are not working, but that's okay. It's okay.
No.
I put all these transitions in there, but it's okay.
Okay.
So let's talk about why smart people get caught. Well, one of them is a sense of urgency. So sometimes the scammer, you're in a situation where it's like, time is of the essence. And
Mm-hmm.
um, you got to act right now. If you don't act right now, this is going, bad things are going to happen, right? And so people kind of catch you off guard. You got a lot of other things on your mind, and all of a sudden it may not look like this, it may not even come through a cell phone, but it's like, you need to handle this right now. Some of these come in the mail,
Mm-hmm.
stuff about, you about to get a tax lien, and if we don't hear from you by tomorrow, kind of thing. So that's one of them. The other one, again, you see that heart there, the trust building. We're going to talk a lot about these romance scams. Um, but there's a lot of vulnerable people out here, and especially think about it. We just came out of COVID. COVID was a very lonely time for
Yeah.
lots of people. And what did we do? We went to the internet.
To
you know,
talk to people, to meet people. Yeah.
we were in our homes. We were not in the office. We were not going out. So I think this is why these romance scams have, really took off, more specifically during COVID. Authority bias. In a minute, I'm going to share a story with you that kind of covers two or three of these. But people representing themselves as some type of official or in some official capacity, and they're not. It's all,
Mm-hmm.
it's lies, 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 lies. Fear and scarcity. Again, telling you that if you don't do something, that this is what's going to happen. You got to act now. And of course, consistency and commitment. Um, People have you signing things that you haven't read. The fine
Yeah.
print. You see this happening even to celebrities and things like that. I happen to be someone that watches a lot of documentaries, and you especially you hear about it in entertainment, like people that are musicians or actors and stuff like that, and the bad deals that the musicians got when they signed.
Yeah.
And even right now, Michael is a big thing. I went and saw Michael the movie. Um, you know, he didn't own his masters at one point, or even with Ray Charles at one point, he didn't own his masters, right?
Wow.
So again, this is probably things that were in the fine print, but in the Michael movie, it was kind of like they put the contract in front of you, or even I've heard Dave Chappelle talk about this. He was broke, he was married, he had kids, and he was sitting in a room of attorneys, and they all said this is a good deal. And what did he know? He didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So he signed a deal. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a wealthy man today, but probably could have been wealthier if he had had the capacity
Yeah.
um, to actually have someone look over that contract. But at the time, it was like, it's like I got to feed my family, and so that's another way that people kind of get hooked, right? And not because they're not smart. It's not because they're not smart. So before we go to the next slide, I want to tell you all about a real story. This happened maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. It was during COVID. I remember I was coming home. I had just pulled up and parked my car. I hadn't even gone into the house. And I get a phone call. And the guy tells me he's from Fulton County. I live in Fulton County, something or other department. Um, and he said there was a bench warrant out for me.
Oh my gosh.
For what?
Mm.
So this man starts talking about this bench warrant and about how it could be handled right now, but I would have to send whatever the amount of money was, and they could take a credit card out. And I'm literally I'm sitting there perplexed for a couple of reasons. For one reason, I worked in Fulton County, not for Fulton County, but I worked in Fulton County for many years. I'm talking about over a decade, and I know the what do you call it, after the 404, after the area code, the first three numbers of Fulton County numbers, I recognize that number. And this was
Mhm.
the first six numbers in this telephone number he called me from was not Fulton County. That's what
Mhm.
I knew that for sure. Like, and I was asking him again. I said, "Well, what department are you from?" And then what he said, what department he was from, I was sitting there and I was on my phone and I was looking up that department. And it's not that the department didn't exist in the wording that he said. There was a department that was similar, but if you work for the department, you know exactly what the title is. The Department of Criminal Justice, Department of Juvenile, whatever the department is, you know what the department is if you work there, right? So it appeared that this did not exist. And the department that I saw, the telephone number was not the same. And so I was like, he is punking me right now, right? And
Oh
I
my
couldn't
God.
get any straight answers about, what do you mean this bench warrant? And so eventually, this surprised me. I said, can I call you back at this number? And he said, yes. So apparently I already had this number set up where you actually could call back, right? So I got off the phone with him. I did a little bit more digging. And I even called a friend of mine who works down at Fulton County. They were like, and her husband happened to be one of the assistant DAs, so one of the attorneys down there. And so I was like, okay, he's punking me. So I called him back and I said, he was like, okay, you ready to pay? I said, no, y'all can come pick me up. You have a bench warrant for me. Come pick me up. You already know where I live. I'm here now. You can come and get me. And that was kind of the end of it. And then I turned all that information into the police.
Yeah.
But I understood how legitimate that felt. It felt like this was somebody of authority. There was a sense of urgency, right? They were trying to put the fear into me that I was going to get arrested or whatever. And of course, nobody has shown up since then. And I could not remember. I hadn't been to court for anything, right?
Mhm.
I could understand how somebody would have pulled out their credit card and paid whatever it is, right? And then,
I know.
and then on top of that, and now they have your credit card.
Mm.
You think it's going to be one transaction? Probably not.
They're going to drain the account.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you're trying to go back and whatever. Okay. So next slide.
Well, I was gonna say, I think you brought up a good point too. Like, for me, I've gotten scammed a few times. I won't go into any of the stories right now, but I didn't do what you did, which was report it to the police. And I think that's how the police start getting more and more calls from these scams that are happening. And then it makes the news. And then more people are even more aware. So, but it starts with like someone like you and other people reporting that it's happening.
Absolutely.
And I've never done that with any of my scams. I'm just like, oh my gosh, almost got scammed. And then that's the end of it, So I need to start doing what you do and report it because that's a good thing.
So in a future slide, I'm going to talk about why people don't.
Okay.
So that's very common. Okay. So there's been a whole evolution of scams, right? So I put in here some of the old scams that scams that are easy to recognize. You get an email and bad grammar. The logos are blurred. I get things from Costco all the time. And I am a Costco member. Things on your auto insurance. Anybody, you ever remember the Nigerian prince? You get these letters about the Nigerian prince that has all this money.
Yes.
Or you won the lottery, but you got to send this advance fee in order to get your winnings.
Mm-hmm.
You overpaid something. And so, it goes on and on. Or definitely people that want to verify your account.
Mm-hmm.
When I get calls and somebody want to verify my account or verify my information, well, apparently you already have it. So you tell me what you have and I will tell you if it's correct.
Yes.
I'm not telling you anything.
Oh my goodness.
That some places will send out a message and say that we will never call you directly, right? So that when you get a phone call and they say they're from whatever the place is, like, no, you all would not call me directly. I just said, we'll put it in the mail, send it certified or whatever. I need it in writing. Send it in writing, right? But now we have AI, right? So
AI.
Such a double-edged sword. I love AI, but I also realize how dangerous AI can be. And so here are some of the things that have happened because of AI. People have heard of deep fakes.
Mm-hmm.
First time I heard of a deep fake, I'm like, what is that? And the first time I heard about it, I was watching this movie, G20. I don't know if you've seen this G20.
No.
So Viola Davis, who is one of my favorite actresses, she is
awesome.
Yes, she's the president of the United States in this movie. And there's a part of the movie, won't give the movie away, but they do this deep fake where they're, showing her saying something that she didn't say, but because of AI, it looked like she actually said it, right? Mm-hmm. And they filmed it and it went out to the world, right? So that's really what it is. It looks and sounds real, but it isn't. Essentially what a deep fake is. The social media targeting. Scammers use information from your social media to personalize their approach and gain your trust faster. I think about this a lot. So LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably my in the business, in the professional world, right?
Yeah.
It is my platform of choice is LinkedIn. And there's lots of other ones, but I really like LinkedIn. But getting a message referencing something from your LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got an email this Monday, and I don't think it was a scam, but it may have been. I'll tell you about this story. I get this email. Someone, and I could tell that AI had written the email because AI has a style, and one of the things that AI uses a lot, it uses a lot of dashes, where maybe a
Oh yeah.
be a comma, right? But this man basically regurgitated my entire resume. Oh, and you're so awesome, and I see that you did this and you did that and you did the other. And I'm like, and the whole time I'm reading, like, what do you want? What's the catch? And finally, he says that he's written some books, and his books are kind of around estate planning and legacy planning and stuff like that. And it's kind of like he wants to align with me, and he's offering me to put my information inside his books. And now I would have access to his audience. So he's trying to align me and behavioral finance and financial planning along with this estate and legacy stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So, of course, I'm that person that wants to go and do my research. So, first, I go look up the books, and he's actually sent me one in a PDF. I look up the books. He has a series of books, there's 3 books. The books were listed on Amazon, they're all 2 days apart. One is like February 18th, February 20th, February 22nd. Who does that? Either they were all going to be, first of all, who does a series of books and you publish them all at one time?
Mm-hmm.
Publish them all at one time and be on the same day, right? These are all 2 days apart. No reviews, not a single review. And I couldn't find this man anywhere on the internet. I couldn't find him on LinkedIn. I couldn't find a photo. I couldn't find anything about this guy, right? And so I sent a nice email back and said, thank you, but no thank you, right?
Yeah.
But again, I was like, where did he get my information? He either got it from LinkedIn or maybe he got it from my website because
Yeah.
he basically told me everything about myself,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of how it starts. And of course, he wanted to have a conversation, and I'm not interested. And I don't need your book. My book is coming out this year.
Yes.
Okay. And then the data breaches. Who has not had the data breach? The Target data breach, the Equifax. Everybody has had a data breach. Our information is out there. Everybody talks about the dark web. Everybody's had a data breach. How many offers have you had for them to do? What do you call it? Where the monitoring
Oh yeah.
credit
The
monitoring service for the next year? Like, everybody should be having monitoring for free now because everybody's had a data breach, right? So here's the thing. So, you had the old scam 1.0. Now we're like up to like scam 4.0, right? And so the scams are really, they're the same. It's really the same scam, except they just got more believable. And a lot of that's because a lot of things are AI generated. It's just a lot easier to find out information about people, right? You don't have to go to people's trash cans anymore. You can just go on the internet and find what you need.
Yeah. And people post on social media their whole lives.
Way too much information.
Yes.
Way too much. Absolutely. Next slide. Okay. This is kind of a diagram, an image of all the different types of financial scams. I'm going to talk more specifically about a few of these, but just to kind of give you an idea. I mean, romance scams, we're going to spend some time on that. Online shopping scams. Even some of the legit things I think are scams, right? The shopping online and getting things from like Shein and Temu right now is like a big thing with a lot of women. I think the scam there is that you get it, and then it doesn't matter if they gave you a US size. It's 4 sizes too small. But then if you want to exchange it, you got to send it back to China.
Mm-hmm.
Send it back to China costs more than what you paid for the item in the first place. That's another story for another day. Identity theft scams. We already talked about that. Email and message scams, tech support scams. That's not one we're going to talk a lot about. In fact, it's something I need to actually research a little bit more. There's a lot of investment scams, also the banking and payment scams, and of course, job and employment scams, right? Um,
Yeah.
Especially the people that say, you have to pay them a fee and then they're going to help you get this and so. Um, a long time ago, I'm talking about maybe about 40 years ago. So now we're not talking about really when the internet was popular or things like that, or everybody had a computer in the palm of their hand. I got scammed out of my car.
Mm.
That wasn't anything new. It was just the old kind of get me from A to B. But the whole thing was that I was trading my car and they were supposed to get me into a significantly better car. And that never happened.
Oh my goodness.
Not having a car. Yeah, that was me in my 20s.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then I was like, now I have a car. And then of course I couldn't reach it. It's a long story. I started thinking about that as I was bringing this up. I said, oh yeah, somebody got a car for me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a job employment scam. I was looking for a job. I don't know why. This was back when Facebook had job listings. I don't know if they do anymore. I haven't checked. I called them back. They wanted me to purchase Bitcoin before I started the job. And I was like, what? They were
Yeah.
like, you need to have this much Bitcoin before we can hire you.
Gosh.
I'm like, okay, bye. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.
Absolutely. It's a lot of crazy stuff out here for sure.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. Investment scams, guaranteed returns, people telling you they have insider information. They know that this stock is going to pop or whatever. Unregistered investments. This is something that I don't even think most people understand about, investments needing to be registered, or if they're private equity, or it's a lot that people don't know around investment scams. And so I don't know, maybe at a later date we'll just do a whole session just on things that people need to know more specifically about investments. Crypto trading platforms. I noticed maybe 6 to 12 months ago on is it on Cash App, you can buy Bitcoin on
Oh
Cash.
yeah.
And I do, now that I think about it, somebody did get me. They didn't get a bunch of money, but they got a little bit, and it has something to do with crypto. I'm trying to remember what actually happened. I've been very guarded around crypto.
Hmm.
Some
Same.
crypto is regulated by the government and some is not.
Hmm.
People don't know that. And so while we may not always be happy with the government, sometimes it has its place, right? And especially if I'm talking about my money, I want to be very careful that most things that my money is invested in is regulated, right?
Right.
Have some type of recourse. Here, when we talk about social engineering, the phishing, the smishing, and the vishing.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, most people know about phishing because sometimes you get these emails and it says it's phishing, right? It's phishing emails. And when I get those, sometimes I will send those to the actual organization if I'm a part of it, and say, hey, I just want y'all to know I'm getting these emails, right? Or sometimes you get the emails from your friend and your friend says my account was hacked, and you're getting all kinds of really weird stuff. And if I think back, this is probably maybe 20 or 30 years ago. Remember the Melissa virus? everybody,
Yeah.
everybody remembers the Melissa virus, right? And it would come and it would snatch stuff off of your computer and it would send stuff out. It was crazy. Smishing. And the way I remember smishing is because for a lot of us, you have your text messaging is SM, right?
SMS. Yeah.
Right. So smishing. And then there's the vishing. Now, I don't know where they got the vishing from. I guess V is for voice. right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So you get vishing where people actually calling you, like the guy that called me and told me I had the bench warrant.
Oh my gosh.
And then of course, just straight up impersonation of IRS, bankers, advisors. Um,
Mhm.
even when I'm watching, police shows, they show up, they show the badge, like, well, before I let you in my house, I need to let me call and make sure that the badge is real.
Mhm.
Things like that. There's a lot of payment scams, Zelle and Venmo fraud. And I actually started looking up between all the different ways that people transfer money now between Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, um, and others, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. Um, there's a whole thing around which ones are more secure than others.
Mhm.
I didn't have time to go into that today. One of the things they say, because Zelle is from bank to bank, it can be more secure than others. But for a lot of those, when you send the money, when it's gone, right? So anytime I'm adding someone to Zelle and I'm sending money, I always send $1 first.
Yeah, that's smart.
I always send $1 first, and I want you to confirm that that dollar was received before I send the larger amount, because if I send it to the wrong person, I'm not getting it back, and then I don't have the money to pay you.
Yeah.
I always want to make sure. And yes, I've definitely heard about these gift card scams. I've experienced that, people, telling you to go buy so many gift cards and whatever. I'm like, I'm not doing that, right? I don't know a lot about this whole wire fraud with the real estate closings, but I can imagine that, when I bought my house, I had to wire money for my,
Same here, yeah.
right. But, when I did it, I was in the bank. I wasn't like just at the closing office or whatever. I literally was in the bank. So I guess I felt more secure about that. But, the next time I'm, doing a real estate transaction, I will certainly look into this to make sure that I'm wiring it where it needs to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's a bunch of money. That's a big chunk of change.
It's a big chunk, especially if you're like putting 20% down on a house or something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, what do we have next? Okay, so more identity theft and synthetic fraud, right? So sometimes people are trying to open up accounts in your name. So they're doing a combination of real data and making up some fake data. And again, they're using it to access credit cards and loans.
Mhm.
I do think it is important, and it's gotten a lot easier now for people to check their credit profile, right?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
all these apps. You got Wallet Hub, you got Credit Karma, you have freeannualcreditreport.com. You have places you should be checking that on a regular basis. Now, I check my credit every month. Every month, I'm checking it. But then I pull a full credit report at least once a year.
Yeah.
Because if anything's suspicious on there, the sooner you get to it, the better.
The better. Mhm.
The other thing that I do, that I don't know if most people know that you can do this, my credit is also locked.
Mhm.
Credit
Yep.
is locked on all three bureaus. So, and sometimes I forget and I try to do something and they say, "Oh, your credit is locked," and I have to unlock it, or
Yeah.
freeze it, right? So my credit is locked. I also, on your credit report, you can have it where they can turn off people soliciting you for more credit. You can turn that off
Mhm.
if you don't want people to be sending you offers all the time. And if you are getting the offers, then I would be cautious about, is the offer legit? Is it real? Right?
Right.
Fortunately, I'm not really looking for any new credit cards. I pretty much have the cards that I want. If anything, I might want to increase the my buying power, but um, that's something else that people can do to protect themselves. I keep my cards locked. Oh, so here I have another story for you. I was going to Miami, and I was going to stay. My cousin has a condo in Miami, and I was going down there, and he was actually coming up here. So his whole thing was, so when I get there, I'm flying in late. Like my flight's gonna get in, like it's gonna be 11:30 midnight before I get there. And he has the little key thing I can get in and all of that. Okay, so I get there, and I was using Uber. I was going to Uber to his place.
Mhm.
In Uber, I had my American Express card, and so I ordered the Uber. This is so bizarre. Now, mind you, it's midnight. I'm tired. I've worked all day. I just got off the plane. Not making excuses. I'm just telling you this is how it happened. Remember the thing says that you're busy, you're tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not in the freshest frame of mind. When I sent the Uber, there was some type of code, and the next thing you know, I got a message asking me for the code, and I put the code in there. And you know what they did? Now they had access to my Uber account.
Oh no. I think yeah.
So it's midnight. It's pitch black. I'm at the airport. I'm trying to get to the place, right? So here's what's happening. They took over my Uber account. The Uber never showed up. And now all of a sudden, there are charges on my American Express card. One of them being, I think they added about $600 to my Uber account.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see this stuff is going on, but I can't get into Uber. And guess what? There is no telephone number to call Uber.
As big as that company is, there's no customer service number.
There was no customer service number. And they kept saying if I wanted to reach out to them, I needed to log into my account and then I could reach them, but I can't log into the account.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else has taken it over. They've changed the credentials. Now, so I call American Express, and of course, they're wonderful. They're like, don't even worry about it. We got you, right? I think I end up, oh, here's the other thing I started thinking about. My password on Lyft was the same as my password on Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good idea. So I got into Lyft. I got my Lyft to the place, right? It's a whole nother story about what happened after that. But it took me about 3 to 4 weeks before I could get that whole thing resolved.
Oh my gosh.
And all of this was again, I I just wasn't like, what is this code? You asked me for the code. Here's the code. I'm just trying to get to my cousin's spot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Now fortunately, maybe unfortunately, when I did finally get back into my Uber account, the money that they had not spent was still in my Uber account.
Mm-hmm.
And American Express did not charge me for it. But I mean, immediately I could see all the things that they were trying to do. They were ordering food, they were ordering all these things all over the place, all on my American Express card. And so from then, I was like, I'm very cautious even about what cards I may leave in certain platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm very, very cautious about, I keep many things locked, right? And if it's locked, they can't make the transaction.
Exactly.
So it's just a easy way to protect yourself. Okay. Voice cloning. I wanted to talk about this one. I have not experienced this one, but a dear, dear, dear friend of mine has. We're about the same age. We went to high school together. I mean, he is like my brother. And he told me that he got a phone call from someone that sounded exactly like his son.
Oh my goodness.
Calling, the son was in trouble, needed money, so on and so forth. And I think he got took for a little bit, right? Um, but this is what's happening now. And I actually had a client, not a client right now, but I had a client previously that was in the entertainment field, an actress. And one of the things she would not allow me to do, she would not allow me to use AI recording during our sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the reasons why. She said she did not want her voice or her likeness to be cloned, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because sometimes I see these ads and stuff, and I remember one I was looking at not too long ago, and it was Dr. Oz. And when I paid really close attention to his mouth, it didn't it just
Good match. Yeah.
him. There was one I've seen for Adele. I've seen some for Oprah, like, and they're getting better and better, right? They're getting better and better in terms of, sounding like the person, but maybe everything wasn't syncing up, but they're getting better and better. So, these deep fake video calls, um, it just really makes me think about, again, when somebody calls and they're saying, we need this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, first of all, you verify, I'll verify. You tell me what you have, I'll verify. And I'm even more suspicious of if you called me versus if I call you.
Yeah.
I want to look at the number. And sometimes they can fake out what number it's coming from or what email it's coming from, right? They can kind of clone that kind of stuff too. So these are the types of things that we really have to be aware of now.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of a QR code scam, but I'm sure there are, right?
Hmm.
Because QR codes are so popular now. So, even when oh, I will say this. I was buying FIFA tickets recently. I like FIFA's going to be here in Atlanta. I want to go to at least one game. I want to go to a game. And I can't remember. I was Googling where I could buy FIFA tickets. And let me tell you how I found out the website that I went to was not legit because I was trying to put it on my American Express card and American Express flagged it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, who are you buying from?
They're like, this is not it.
And these tickets they were not cheap. I wasn't trying to be on the down on the in the VIP section. I just trying to get into the arena,
Yeah.
but it's still a little bit pricey. So I was so glad that they caught that. But now I'm like, okay, now I have to find the legitimate FIFA website before I
Because you still want the tickets. You
go.
still want to go. Yeah.
But the website, everything looked legit. I
Mhm.
couldn't tell it. So okay, next slide. Okay, here we get to it. I was taking this CE class and this whole thing came up on pig butchering. And I'm like, what is that?
Yes. What is this?
I had never heard of pig butchering, but it is one of the most popular scams today. In fact, I've seen stuff about it. I just didn't know it was called pig butchering. So here I want to tell you where the name came from, right? Okay, so it's a metaphor used by fraud rings, originally translated from Chinese slang, sha zhu pan. Didn't know all that, but if you think about it in the meat industry. What do they do first? The pig is the victim, right? They want to fatten up the pig before they slaughter it.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing. They find a victim, they build up that trust over time. That's the fattening process, right?
Hmm.
When they butcher them and they take all their money at once. It's like it's a big money grab and go. And sometimes it may not necessarily be all at once. I'm going to share some examples with you. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Some of these are things that I have seen. So I wanted to show you where they are. So the Tinder swindler. Again, I told you I watch a lot of documentaries. I watched the Tinder swindler back in 2022. You're talking about this 4 years ago. But what it really is, all these are really romance scams, right? And again, we talked about people being very lonely and vulnerable during COVID, and everybody's online. You had the Tinder swindler. Inventing Anna again, these are true stories. Inventing Anna is not so much a romance scam, but it is a financial scam. These
Hmm.
shows to go watch. I would definitely recommend people go watch them. I have not seen The Puppet Master, but if you notice, all of these kind of came out around the same time 22, 23, 24.
Yeah.
I have not watched the pig butchering romance scam, but it's on YouTube. I will be watching that this weekend for my research. And then I do like John Oliver, and I didn't know that he had done I guess you would call it an expose. Um, he's on HBO, but this was done a couple years ago. So it's on YouTube now. You can watch this on YouTube where he's talking about pig butchering.
Yeah.
This is one of the most popular scams, and it's a combination of romance and financial scams. That's what pig butchering is.
That's very interesting. I didn't know it was called that. I knew the romance scam, but not pig butchering. Yeah.
Butchering. And afterwards, I kept saying, "What is the name of like? How could I not remember what that name was?" I was like, "It's some weird name," but pig butchering is what it's called, and it's very, very, very popular. And if you watch, there's some other shows I've seen, even besides the Tinder swindler, where and it's not always women, but for the most part, a woman is taken advantage of. She's met someone, he's a global jet setter, and he's in and out. And there was one I saw where he had a whole nother family someplace else that she didn't know about. But then it's all of a sudden he's from royalty, his family's super wealthy, but I need you to send me X amount of dollars just until thus and so. Like, there's always a reason. And some of these women have sent all their money. All their credit cards are maxed out. Some of them have mortgaged their houses. They've done all these things, and then all of a sudden, poof, like that, he's gone.
Mm.
Or even one woman, and I was actually trying to find this documentary that I saw. And this woman, she was, again, a smart woman, um, well to do on her own. Um, they were supposed to get married. The invitations had gone out when she found out about his other family.
Yeah.
And this guy, as a matter of fact, I think he was a surgeon. That documentary is out there. So, on Netflix, if you look at one, it'll tell you, oh, if you like that, here's all the other ones that are very similar. So I've seen a couple of these documentaries on how people are being taken advantage of. Like I said, the Inventing Anna doesn't have the romance component to it, but it definitely has the financial one. And it's almost bizarre when you think of how people have taken advantage of others with their, whatever type of scam it is that they have.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. I wanted to give you a real life scenario walkthrough of kind of how this happens. Because some of these have almost happened to me, right? I get a text. I don't know who the text is from. This one here. Hi, this is Sarah. We met at the conference last week. You respond thinking this, oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. I've gotten a text. I'm like, you have the wrong person. And this is what happened. They apologize and they keep trying to talk to me. And I'm like, why?
I don't know you.
I
Yeah.
don't know you. And not trying to get to know you, but I've had that where several more texts came in until finally I just blocked the number. But for some people, they don't block the number, right? So the next few days, they're getting more messages. They're friendly, they're polite, they're consistent, right? They ask about whatever. Doesn't feel like a scam. It feels like connection, especially if you're someone who is longing for some attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can get pulled into this. And here it tells you weeks go by. Now you're talking daily. You're sharing photos. Maybe you're getting catfish. May not even be their photos. That's a whole nother of a scenario, right? And it may not be a financial scam, but it could be an emotional scam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Catfish, the movie, and all the shows and everything, right? Okay, but now they decide they want to share with you. They talk about investing. Just casually throw that into the conversation. They've been doing really well. They're happy to share and show with you if you're interested. No pressure, right? Going to the next slide. Okay, and you start off small. And of course, you're making money, or whatever platform you're on, it looks like you're making money, right? They're guiding you step by step. It feels legitimate. You get excited. You want to invest more money. And then all of a sudden, like this woman here, you go to the ATM and all the money is gone, or you go to the platform online. There's nothing to withdraw, and you can't reach the person anymore. Phone number doesn't even exist. And it didn't start with money. It started with a conversation.
Oh, that's so scary.
It is very scary, which is another reason why I am very leery. And I get a lot of calls. I get calls, people talking about, I want to talk to you about your property, and it'd be in someplace in Texas. I don't own a property in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we don't have anything else to talk about. And it's a lot, I'm not trying to be rude, but I definitely want to protect myself financially, right? So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
have to be guarded to some extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we only have a few more slides, which is good because we're running out of time. I've been running my mouth today. So I wanted to touch a little bit on the emotional side of fraud. So you know that we're always talking about behavioral finance, um,
Mm-hmm.
but the emotional side of it is that people feel if they've gotten taken, they feel shame, they feel embarrassment, and they become silent. And this is whether the fraud went through and you were taking advantage of, you got played, or whether even if you didn't, like you said, Sarah, a couple of times you didn't even get played, but you didn't report it.
Yeah.
And it is important for it to be reported because there's so many other people that could be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of that person that, like, I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Yeah.
I want it to happen to my clients. I don't want it to happen to my mom. I don't want it to happen to my people at church. So I gotta at least put it out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
One other quick story. There's some other scam I got. These people sent me a check in the mail. I immediately took that check. I can't remember the whole scenario, but I took that check up to the police department and I gave them the check. So they had like real evidence,
Yeah.
the check that was sent to me. And it sounded very legit. And I could just see myself if I went up to the bank to deposit it or cancel it, now all of a sudden I become the fraudulent person.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So I just went ahead and I took it up to the police department and I told them the whole scenario. I gave them everything that was sent to me. But here's what happened. The longer we wait, again, we talk about if there is a chance for recovery, it lessens the longer that you wait, right? And fraud spreads when people stay silent. So it really is important for us to say something. And here there's some stats on what happens from the emotional perspective. Desperation, 72% of fraud victims feel desperate, right? Um, Fear, 61% people were scared. 47% of people, maybe they felt hopeless. 65% felt a sense of urgency to do whatever it was. And then
Hmm.
48% was just felt excited, like we just talked about in that. And you started investing and it looked like you were making money. And so you got excited and said, oh, let me put some more in, right? And
Yeah.
all your money got took. So this is a real thing. The emotional side of it can be equally as devastating as the financial side of it.
Yeah. I'm going to do better at reporting it so
Okay,
that the next person doesn't get taken.
exactly.
Hmm.
Okay, next slide. Okay, we are at the end. Woo! So here's what we covered today. So again, today we talked. This was about awareness. We wanted to talk about the types and categories of scams, how they work, why they work, and what to watch out for. But all the things that we didn't really cover, we covered some things, but we kind of hit high level on how to protect yourself. But in part 2 next month, and we want you to join in, we want to talk about how to protect yourself proactively, how to respond if you're targeted, how to recover if money is lost, and tools and systems that you can put in place. And yes, we talked about a few today, but we're going to do a deep dive in part 2 on what you can do on the things that we didn't cover today. Because you see, it has been an hour. I ran my mouth in those 17 slides.
Well, I mean, if you have that many stories and you're just one person, imagine how many stories happens to everybody. It's good information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's on the next one? It might be the last slide.
You got two more.
2 more. Call to action. So we need everybody to stay alert, right? It's really, really important. Question everything. There's nothing wrong with questioning. Um, don't rush into financial decisions. I know anytime someone is like, hey, and this happens a lot, we can give you this discount, but you got to make a decision today. Well, then I'm not making a decision. I'm
No.
not. I haven't lost anything. I might not gain anything, but I haven't lost anything either. If you're going to rush me, I'm not making a decision. Then the answer is already no. I will not allow someone to force me or coerce me into making a financial decision without me doing my due diligence. So don't do that. And last one is join us for part 2 next month because it's going to be good.
Yes.
It's going to be good. All right, last slide. If you need to reach us, me or Sarah, there's the QR code. Put your phone up to it. It will take you to our calendar where you can meet with either Sarah or myself. We both will provide a free consultation. Sarah's niche is military money, but she is very gifted and very talented in the retirement planning space, budgeting, all kinds of things. You need to get to know Sarah as well. So I just want to thank everyone that came today. Those of you that will be watching this video off of our YouTube channel, please stay tuned. Please subscribe. We got really, really good content out there. We have a great library of resources that are out there now, but please join us next month for
part 2. Yes. Yes. Follow us on YouTube. We put out content and education that only benefits y'all. So
absolutely. Well, thank you for hosting with me again, Sarah.
Yes, of course, Melissa.
All right.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.